Hi, this is Amish.aggarwala. I'm an advocate practicing in Delhi, and I thought I'll talk about the Consumer Protection Act of 2019, which is now going to come into force as by a notification by the government, is going to come into force on the 20th of July of this year. And this is a fantastic piece of legislation, but of course, anything which is done for the benefit of one class of persons will always adversely affect the other class of persons. So the stronger you make a legislation for consumers, it will be the producers, the sellers who will suffer the consequences. And this is of course no doubt something which favors consumers more, favors the lower class and the middle class more, and the actual repercussions we will see. But the most interesting provisions, and not the entire act is coming into force, and I'll talk about that in a bit, but the actual provisions which are coming in, there are several of them, but I'm going to cover the things that you and me would actually care about from the very beginning. The jurisdiction of the pecuniary, that is the monetary jurisdiction of all the courts, have been raised. The district commission now will have jurisdiction up to 1 crore rupees. The state commission will have jurisdiction up to 10 crore rupees, and the National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission will have jurisdiction of beyond a claim of rupees 10 crores. Apart from that, there are also provisions under the new act which say that the state commission and the national commission, not the district commission, the state and the national commission can declare any terms of a contract which are unfair to a consumer to be void. Now, this is very interesting because to govern the law of contracts and the relationships between parties, we already have multiple legislations. There is the Contract Act, there is the Sale of Goods Act, there is also the Specific Relief Act. We've got plenty of legislation. We've got one more legislation which comes in and governs the law of contract between two persons, and says that if a term of a contract is unfair to a consumer, that can be held to be void. It is going to be good in one sense because there are a lot of onerous contracts which are produced before the consumer by the producer, who says sign it else we do not have a deal, and the consumer, having no other choice, or maybe does not have that kind of information, is not able to come to a conclusion as to what he wants out of this contract, and then he signs that contract. So one thing is that such unfair terms will be excluded by the order of the courts. However, I see a problem with it. The problem that I see is the more of intervention of government there is in contracts like these, people like you and me, we will never understand the true gravity of what we are signing. And that is why, because somewhere in the back of our minds, we know that there is no case that we have heard of some Raju, Bittu or some other fellow who got into some big problem because he signed some unfair contract. And you aren't getting into that kind of a problem. That is the reason why you are also not educating yourself to this kind of a level. That's one big thing that you kind of need to be able to you need to get into it and need to figure out. That's one thing that I am seeing that is happening. Apart from that, there is this provision of product liability action, which the provisions were already there, but they are now they have been defined a little better by the act. Earlier, if there was a manufacturing defect, the act says deficiency in service, which was kind of included in that whole thing. Now they've made it more defined. There's not really much of a purpose getting into it, but these are the main provisions. Apart from that, one thing which is not coming into force immediately, which I found to be very interesting when the act was passed by the parliament, was section 89 of the act, which says that if a manufacturer or a producer gives a misleading advertisement which is prejudicial to the interest of a consumer, in that situation, that is a punishable offense, punishable with up to 2 years of imprisonment as well as rupees 10 lakhs fine, which is going to open up a whole Pandora's box of regulations and litigation. Because every person, now if I am shocked, or if my conscience is shocked by things like Fair and Handsome or Fair and Lovely, or maybe some fat loss products, or which are damaging, or Coca-Cola for bringing in the good times, I can bring in a litigation and say that this is prejudicial to the interest of consumers because of mental well-being, because of physical well-being, because of societal situations, what the society demands. Any of these situations, we can come in, we can file complaints, and this will be a punishable offense. This is going to be incredible when it does get notified. Another thing that I kind of forgot about in the middle of saying all of these things is, which is also very, very important, is now a consumer can file the consumer complaint wherever he resides or wherever he works. Earlier, the situation was that you can go and file a complaint only where either the cause of action arose or where the respondent resides or carries on the business. So the difficulty was, very recently what happened was, a client called me up and told me he purchased something in Bombay. Although he's from Delhi, he purchased something in Bombay, came back, realized that this is a whole sham. So now he wanted to file a complaint. Now, to figure out what to do, there is no other option for him because he lives in Delhi. There is no other option for him but to actually go to Bombay and file that consumer complaint over there, because the respondent lives in Bombay and the thing was purchased in Bombay as well. Now my client can also file that consumer complaint in Delhi, and this is going to have major benefit for consumers, but at the same time it is going to be a huge problem for service providers, for manufacturers, for sellers of goods, because if you are selling something sitting in Bangalore or in Chennai or in Kolkata and I am sitting here in Delhi and I purchase that thing, or if I'm in your city, I purchase it and I come back, I can file a complaint. You will have to, from Kolkata, scramble about to find a lawyer in Delhi and then file your reply to that consumer complaint which has been filed. Interesting times, of course. As a litigator, for me, this has less of, what is the pros and the cons, because I'll always have people whom I have to represent from both sides. So it'll be good for a few people, it'll be bad for other people. But these are some things that consumers and producers all must know. 20th July is the date that we are opening the floodgates a little more.